we cannot act. We need to be able to act. It's like trying to change the wheel of the bus whilst the bus is moving. There is absolutely no doubt that the president has managed this crisis exceptionally well in respect of making sure that the pandemic does not actually get out of hand. So we commend him on that, and that's the first part of our statement. The second part of that statement, and he himself acknowledged that in his own statement yesterday, is that we need to start looking at how we onboard and re-engage the economy, because we've got very difficult issues. Because if you recall, before this lockdown, we were already in a technical recession environment where our economy was not growing, unemployment was getting worse, and we're actually stuck at some particular point of a negative cycle. And then immediately thereafter, we had the COVID-19 pandemic, which actually forced our hand in shutting down the entire place. And then trade was always going to suffer, the business was going to suffer, the economy was going to go down. And then add a third element, we then got downgraded to junk status. So South Africa is not in a very good position right now in respect of those three elements in how to trade itself or to wait until the COVID-19 virus actually leaves. We also don't know how long that virus is going to be around. As we say, as the American Dr. Fauci was saying, the virus will actually set the timeline. You can't set the timeline yourself. So what we anticipate is that we may well to have to do a couple of iterations around the lockdown. There's a possibility, and you can't hold the president's hands behind his back was his business wanting to suspend the lockdown. We can't do that because there's a serious issue of a pandemic on one side. So that's why the idea of flattening the curve and maintaining the health system is a non-negotiable to us as business as well. At the same time, we now need to tool up. We need to start figuring better and innovative ideas about how to live with the virus. There's nothing we can do about the virus. It's going to operate at its own timeline. We might be here dealing with big infections all the way into big winter around June, July. What are we going to do today to ensure that the economy itself does not collapse? So our recommendation and our suggestion is to start to identify those sectors where you will not compromise the public health safety risk, and you can mitigate the risk so that you don't have the curve going up in a way that is steep in terms of infections or people dying. Can we be able to do that? We think that we can. So this sector of the fast food, for instance, is one of the early ones that we know you can re-onboard them in a way that is quick, and will put in strong mitigating factors. No queues outside of any of those shops. You're going to go in there, do a drive-through, or get your food to be delivered, or all those things. Because South Africa faces a much more serious problem, as you would understand. A lot of these businesses, these franchisees, are themselves SMEs. The government has put in relief measures in terms of how to support them financially with money that the government itself does not have. Our fear is that that money will run out much more sooner before the real problem is actually resolved. So if you then start to find a way in which you can remove some of that dependency on the state SME relief support system by taking some of these people back to work in a way that is safe, okay, we will be helping the government in that particular relief effort, because people who are actually trading will not necessarily have a need to apply for money, save my business here, extend my loan, whatever the case might be, and you will not have those employees queuing up at a UIF queue trying to get a piece of that 40 billion, which is also not going to be adequate. So we have to work together at this particular point in time to find the ways and means of how do we live with the virus. We don't want to do anything about the virus. Can we live with it? And what is the mitigating factors? And to that extent, therefore, we can't open the entire system. Our suggestion is that let's look at the low-hanging fruits, choose those particular early sectors where we know we can go in and then monitor and see what happens. Because if we don't do anything and a lockdown is our only option, we're going to be in serious trouble as the weeks come by. Because after 2 weeks, if we don't see any changes, then we're going to be in a position where we're actually stuck in a place where we can't actually come out of. So we need to work together to figure a way of doing
Can
things.
I come in there and ask you a last question before I let you go? All right, Mr. Mukoki, the question that I wanted to ask you is there are companies that are distressed at the moment and that would be not really be a going concern when we come out of this crisis. Are there any interventions or is there communication with regards to coming up with mitigating factors if some companies could be insolvent, say after the lockdown, or maybe going to a period of 3 months?
There are many measures that have been put together via the Small Business Department, as you know, and the Small Business Department has opened up call centers and all that kind of stuff. Many of the business organizations are doing something. The business partners and many of the banks are actually putting together measures. So that particular aspect is okay, insofar as this being a very temporary measure. Okay, but if you start to ask me a question about can you sustain that over a 3-month period, then big question marks come up. I don't think that we can, given what we know in respect of the number of thousands of businesses that are there and a huge number of people who are going to actually get to be unemployed. And that's why the guidance at this point in time is that we need to start looking at those sectors that we can re-engage back into the economy, but do it in such a way that it's very, very, very safe. The measures around mitigating against this virus must be extremely clear-minded, and they have to actually be measures that work, and that's why you must do things in a way that is piecemeal.
All right. Thank you very much for making time to speak to us. That is the CEO of the South African Chamber of Commerce and Industry, Mr. Allan Mukoki. We take a break, and when we return, Peter continues with the program. Stay with us.